So now for the pièce de résistance. I don't know if you noticed when you came into this building, depending on which direction you came in, but you might have seen a picture of some athletes, and NatWest boasting that we are a proud partner of Team GB, because every 4 years, of course, the youth of the world unite in a celebration of athletics, sporting prowess, Citius, Altius, Fortius, faster, higher, stronger. So I'm a fan of the Olympics, not of the commercial razzmatazz and all the money and the sponsorship necessarily, but the actual athletics, the performance, the speed, the height, the distance. I love all of that. And I'm delighted to say that we have an Olympian in the house, a person who's competed at two particular Olympics. He's also a former British record holder in the 400 meters, a Commonwealth champion, a European champion, and a world champion in the 4x400 relay. You might remember one of our guest speakers last year, Chris Akabusi, ran the anchor leg at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan in 1991. Well, our speaker has been an Olympian, was a partner of his, is also a former professional basketball player, former professional rugby player, has represented England in basketball as well, former national kickboxing champion, former motorcycle national endurance champion, motivational speaker, so many things. But many of you might know him, if you have memories as long as mine, or if you've been around following athletics for a long time, from a 400-meter semi-final in Barcelona. He was running down the back straight. I'm not going to go into details because you're going to see it in a moment. Before we meet this man, okay, Carlton, don't worry. I'll paint a picture with my words, but maybe you'll do it better digitally. Please have a look at this VT.
Famously, I guess I'm known for actually not winning a race. 1992 Olympic semi-final, where I was joint favourite for the gold medal in the Barcelona Olympics. And I pulled my hamstring 150 metres down, or into the race, which is halfway down the back straight. I decided to get up and continue running, and my dad jumped out of the crowd and came onto the track and assisted me over the line for the last 100 metres. And that scene is the one that most people will know me for. You know, when people always look at success, they always look at the big picture and they forget to actually celebrate the small successes. You know, when you first step on that first rung of a ladder, that's your first step to getting to the top. I'm not saying you should stop and cheer and then go to the next one, but recognise you've made the first rung, and then you've made the second rung, and you've made the third rung. It's something that I say, and it's basically, imagine two men climbing, I don't know, Mount Everest, Mount Kilimanjaro, walking and walking and walking, and they're scaling their way up. And they've been climbing for days and days, and one of them turns around and says, "Oh my God, we've been going for days, look how far we've still got to go." My response would be, I'd tap him on his arm and say, "But turn around and look how far we've come."
Please welcome Olympian and world champion, Derek Redmon.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. It's half my presentation done. Talk about knock the wind out of my sails, but you know what? We will conquer. So yes, it's really, really good to be here. Thank you very much for staying behind to listen to me present today. Now, you might be wondering, why is this geezer on this stage? Why is he talking about being an entrepreneur? Well, one, I'm proud to say I'm an entrepreneur myself. I am pretty much involved in 3 businesses. I will give them all a quick plug. One of them is me. I'm the main business. I have a motivational company called OCR Motivational. I call it OCR Motivational because my dad's full name is Overland Clement Redmon. Hails from Trinidad and Tobago. He's no longer with us, so I renamed my company when he passed away about 18 months ago to OCR Motivational. I'm also part of another business which basically looks after investment and exit strategies for organisations. So if you're a company and you're looking to get out in 5, 10 years or whatever, or maybe less, 3 to 5 years, we will come in, do an audit and look at all the things that you need to do to be able to either sell that company, float it, or whatever the case may be, or you might be looking for investment. And the third company, Right Brain Thinking. And I have two of my, well, one of them's here. I don't know where the other, oh, he's at the back there, jumping around like a madman. You might have met Midge, and we've got Rob here. And that's all about diversity and inclusion. In fact, we've got an advert in the magazine here somewhere, so have a look through that. I can't remember what page it's on. I tell you what I have to say, Dr. Carlton, that brochure you've got, it's like an old telephone directory. It's absolutely brilliant. It's the thickest I've seen. I think we're on about page 947. I could be wrong, but it's somewhere to the front end of that brochure. But anyway, so why am I here? I am what's known as a business performance coach. That's pretty much what I do. And I go into organizations and I help teach these organizations, individuals, teams, or organizations, how to be more successful based on what I've learned in the world of sport. And I have a saying, sport is a business and business is a sport, because I don't believe there's a difference to being successful in either. The mindset it takes to be successful in the world of business is the same mindset is needed to be successful in the world of sport. So today, I picked up on a topic after having a conversation with Dr. Brown, and I picked up on a subject, or we picked up on a subject really, and that subject is resilience. Because it doesn't matter what you do, one of the things that you need to be is resilient. And I'm walking my way over here. Here it is. I need to get hold of one of these things, a clicker. And whether it's in sport, whether it's in business, and for you ladies and gentlemen in this room, you're entrepreneurs. There's one thing that you are going to need, and that is resilience. And what makes it more different for the majority of you? You're an entrepreneur of color. You need resilience. Now, I do workshops on resilience, and people often ask me, can you become more resilient? I'm reasonably resilient. Can I become even more resilient? I have a one-word answer. Yes. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much. No. The honest answer is yes, of course you can. Anybody can become resilient or become more resilient. By the time you leave this room, I am going to give you some tools to either make you more resilient, or if you don't feel you're resilient, make you become resilient. Everybody can, and it's one of the main ingredients into being successful. There are others like goal setting and confidence, self-belief, all that, but resilience is one of the most important ingredients when it comes to making that pie of success. Because if you are on a goal, a dream, if you've embarked on a goal, an aim, or a dream, I can guarantee you 100% you're not going to get there without being challenged. And if you are, please come and see me after, because I'd like to know your secret. So in the introduction was a little bit about Barcelona. I'm going to show you the complete video of that race. And just to give you a little bit of context, put that into context, my first Olympics was in 1988. I was ranked 3 in the world in 1988 when I went to those Olympic Games, expected to win 2 Olympic medals, 1 in the 400 and 1 in the 4x400 for Great Britain. An hour and a half before my first round of the 400, so while I was warming up, I snapped an Achilles tendon. And that put pay to my first ever Olympic dream. So I vowed 4 years later, I'll make it into the team. And I'm not going to win 1 gold, I'm going to win 2. 1 in the individual 400 and 1 in the 4x400. As was said in the introduction, in the 4x4 Great Britain, we were the reigning world champions. We beat the Americans for the first time in 57 years. And if Chris was here, you will have heard him lying about it last year. Making out that it was all down to him. It was down to us. Right? We made him look good. Just want to let you know that. No, obviously myself, Chris, John Regis and Roger Black, which always makes me laugh because Roger Black was a white guy in the team and actually the true black guy in the team because his surname was Black. So that was one of the things we always joke about Roger. Great 400 metre anyway. We became world champions. First time the Americans have been defeated in 57 years. So we were favourites for the Olympics in the 4x4. But in the individual, there was 2 people that were favourites for that gold medal. Me and a guy called Quincy Watts from America. And there's 4 rounds back then, a heat, a second round, a semi-final, and a final, typical knockout competition. Won my first 2 rounds, got into the semi-final, and then this happened. So we're going to show you what you just saw at the start of that video, and then we'll see it all the way through to the end. Thank you. It's quite funny. I try not look at that. Obviously, it's something that's talked about a lot, and I do try not to look at that video because it's more frustrating these days than it is upsetting. It used to be upsetting. You kind of go through stages, and now it's more frustrating because I was in the shape of my life. And I lost everything in that race. The next race, I lost a British record. The first 2 rounds I won them, but I ran so slow I could have ran much, much quicker. And in hindsight, if we knew that was going to happen, I would have run a personal best in the first round. But the thing that makes me laugh is my dad in that race. And my dad doesn't speak Spanish. That Spanish official didn't speak English. But he does remember, go away! Move yourself! He understands that. It might have a Spanish twang to it, but I guarantee he understands those 2 bits. But that did turn out to be the worst day in my sporting career. It used to be the worst day in my life, and as I just said earlier on, I lost my dad about 18 months ago, and that's by far the worst day of my life. And me and my dad were very close. He was one of my best friends. In fact, my dad was one of my heroes. I have 3 heroes in this world. My dad, Daley Thompson, and Michael Jordan. Privilege of meeting them all. Spent a bit of time with them all. Obviously spent a lot of time with my dad. And my dad is only one of 3 people in this world that I class as my heroes. And when people see that race, they think about, oh God, you were so resilient in that race. And actually, if I'm really honest with you, that wasn't about resilience at that point. There was a tiny bit of resilience, don't get me wrong, but that race wasn't about resilience. That was more about determination and me finishing what I started for my own reason. Okay, that was personal. That wasn't really about resilience. I get it does hint of resilience, but resilience isn't that short. Resilience is something that we have to develop and have to have in us for a lifetime. Not for 4 minutes and 59 seconds as it took for that race. Should have taken me 44 seconds. It took me 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Yes, there was some resilience, but not the resilience that I want to talk about. So for the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to rattle through this bit. I'm going to preach to you. Now, when I say I'm going to preach to you, because I'm going to talk to you about stuff that you already know and what you should be doing. And these are some of the basic points of being resilient. Okay, and then I want to talk to you about something that I developed and something that I've been doing all of my life, and it took me a while to understand what I was doing. So, what does mental resilience mean? And this is something from a psychologist. I'm not going to read it out. I'll let you guys read it for yourself. This is what a psychologist has said is what resilience is. Okay. Now, as I already said to you, can we become more resilient? Well, the answer to that question is yes, we can. So how do we improve? How do we build? How do we become more resilient? Now, this is the preaching part, because you know all this, and I will guarantee most of you just don't do it. So here's some of the simple things. Just improving your health. Okay? We all know healthy mind, healthy body, all these sorts of stuff. Healthy body, healthy mind. Improving your health a little bit really does help. We had 5 people talk about some fantastic products. If you did nothing else but change some of your diet to some of their products, you're going to make a start of improving your mental health. If you don't do any exercise, just go out and walk for 5 minutes a day. Once you walk for 5 minutes, get up and walk for 10 minutes a day. Do you know one of the things that I teach people, and I don't know if anybody ever does this, anybody ever have walk-in meetings? Instead of, thank you, there are some people, instead of going into an office on a table and there's cans of Cokes and loads of packets of biscuits, if the weather's decent, I know we live in the wrong country for this, but if the weather's decent, let's just say, let's get out for 15 minutes. Let's go and walk up the high street. around the park, have our meeting on our feet. Guess what? You're improving your mental health. So improving your physical health also improves your mental health. Try and sleep a little bit. I'm going to rattle through these because these are things that you pretty much know. Here's an important one. You want to be resilient, you've got to find a purpose in life. Find a reason to jump out of bed every day. My wife sometimes takes this the wrong way. I always say to her, you're one of the reasons I jump out of bed every morning. First time I told her that, she took it the wrong way. I said, no, babe, it's because I'm motivated by you and inspired by you. And my wife actually does inspire me. I won't go into it. Maria, her name is, she's half Spanish, is my second wife. And she had a horrible upbringing, not upbringing, but early part of her life. A previous partner, I'm going to get into everything, used to beat her up, all sorts of stuff. And she was big into her fashion, needed some horrible things to the clothes that she made and collected and all that. And it's kind of my mission to give her the life I think that she not only deserves now, but deserved back then. So she is part of my motivation. Even our kids take the mick, thank you, and think I spoil her. You're damn right I do. She's one of the reasons I get out of bed. Every day I have a reason to get out of bed. On that point, do you know, one of the things, and this is another thing with my wife and I, we have this ongoing battle. When I get out of bed, do you know the first thing I do? Make it. My wife doesn't. She can get out of bed and go for hours and then straighten it up and make it later on. I can't do that. I get out of bed and I have to make it. She now understands it. And she says, why do you insist on doing that? I said, you know why? Because it means I've achieved one thing that day. And if nothing else goes right, I've made the bed first thing in the morning. And when I walk into that bedroom in a sulk, I can jump onto a nicely made bed. So for me, I try and achieve 2 things a day. I've already achieved one today. I made the bed. Actually, no, I didn't. I was in a hotel. Sorry, I didn't make the bed this morning. But generally, I will make my bed if I'm at home. And that's the first thing I do. So always try and find a purpose. It doesn't have to be a massive purpose. It could be something you want to do that day, that week, that month. Have a purpose. Put it into perspective. It may be a goal, a dream, an aim, but put it into perspective. Is it something you can actually achieve? Is it something you believe? Is it something that's possible for you to do? Me now saying, I'm going to go to Paris in 3 weeks' time, what am I about, 10 days' time, and win the men's 100 metres. I couldn't do it 25 years ago. I certainly ain't going to do it now. That wouldn't be a true-to-life goal, would it? So put these things into perspective. One of the things that I always say to people as well, see problems as short-term. These things you can get over, you can get around them. I don't have the answers necessarily how, because I don't know what the issue is. But you start to prolong these things and think, oh my God, this is it for the rest of my life. No, it's not. There's one thing that we do as humans. We always make things feel and sound worse than what they actually are. Let me give you an example. I could be on the phone to my wife and say, yeah, babe, I'm on my way home. I've got a 2-hour journey. I'll see you at, I don't know, 8 o'clock. Okay, bye. Phone goes down. 9 o'clock comes, she doesn't hear from me. 10 o'clock comes, she doesn't hear from me. What's her first thought? Oh my God, he's had an accident. He's been in a crash. How does she know that I've just not pulled off over to a service station or met somebody, gone for a quick drink in a pub or something? Our first thought is to think worse than we do think positive. It's a natural thing. It's what we do as human beings. I don't know why. I didn't make us. It's just part of our makeup. So always try and see problems as short term. Do you know what? Here's something that a lot of people don't do. Ask for help. You are not going to be the successes that you already are and intending to be on your own. You need other people to help you. I don't care what it is you're doing. I was a sprinter, a 400-metre runner, an athlete. Do you know how many people think athletics is an individual sport? When people say that to me, I say, you're so wrong. The only time I'm on my own as an athlete, when I'm standing, half naked, behind a line, with a starter saying, on your marks. There was 11 other people that got me to that start line, ranging from coaches, sports psychologists, exercise physiologists, physios, all sorts of people. Can't forget Agent, Mr. 20%. I loved him. Ask for help. It is important because you can't do all these things on your own. Build strong relationships. Is Tony, Dada, are you still in here, Tony? Okay, Tony, someone who was here. We had the same mentor as a Canadian guy called Adrian Abramerson. I nearly said Abramovich. It wasn't Abramovich, Abramerson. Canadian billionaire, passed away a number of years ago. I would be always on the phone to that guy, asking him questions, finding out how I can improve, how I can be better. Let me give you another quick example. Who's the fastest man in the world? Over 100 meters. Tell me his name. No, not Noah Lyles. He's not the fastest. Who holds the world record? Usain Bolt. Thank you very much. Usain Bolt. Noah Lyles. Usain Bolt ran 9.58 seconds for 100 meters. Won a gold medal, broke the world record. Did that on a Saturday evening. It was about 8 p.m. in the evening. Monday morning, he's back in training with a middle-aged guy who was overweight and had never run as fast as Usain. Yeah, still this guy's telling Usain how you can run quicker. Just because that person may not have trod in your shoes, it doesn't mean they can't help you improve what you're doing. Ask for help, people. Build these strong relationships with people. One of the best coach relationships I know was Usain Bolt and his coach. I had it with my coach, also with my old man. Sometimes you need to change the way you think about negative situations. You know, one of the ladies in the panel said something that struck with me, and when she turned around and said, you know, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's a part of the learning process. I don't know how many of you have got children or grandkids in this room. How many times have you ever gone up to a little nipper and say, don't touch that because, I don't know, it's a radiator, it's hot. And they touch it. Or they go to touch it, go, don't touch it. And they go to touch it, please don't touch it, don't touch it. And in the end you go, you know what, let them touch it now. And they touch it and they go, oh, that was hot. Guess what? They've learned. They learn. And you know what they're saying, isn't it? You know, listen, you must feel. And sometimes that is a great way to learn. Sometimes you've got to feel these things. And you know what? Even if you do, you haven't failed. You've learned. There's a saying, you win some, you lose some. Terrible saying. From now on, anybody says that, you say to them, no, it's not. It's you win some, you learn some. You take those negative situations and turn them into a positive situation. Quickly going on to the last thing. Visualize the success that you want. As an athlete, visualization was massive. I used to visualize an Olympic final hundreds of times over months. About 12, 18 months out before the Olympic Games, I would be visualizing that race. I used to do this thing every night, every year. For every major championship, I would do this, whatever's going on. When I go to bed, I would just lie down nice and quiet, and for, 4 or 5 minutes, I would just run that 400-meter race in my head. Sometimes from lane 1, sometimes in lane 2, sometimes in lane 5, sometimes from lane 6. Sometimes in blazing heat, sometimes in the rain, sometimes with the wind against me in the first half, or sometimes the wind against me in the second half, sometimes with my competitors going off really quick, sometimes me going off quick, sometimes me having battles with these guys. But guess what? At the end of every race, guess who won? Yeah. Visualize. Visualize what you want to do. It makes it so much easier to actually achieve that situation. Don't always blame yourself. Sometimes you are not the person to blame why something hasn't gone the way that you wanted. It's not always your own fault. But again, that natural thing to do is blame yourself. Dwell on these things and see them in a negative way again. Don't do that. Be positive about these things. And as I've already said, learn lessons from those failures. My dad always used to call them object lessons. There was lessons that you can be told, but when you actually go for it and it doesn't work, my dad used to call it an object lesson. You've lived that. And sometimes, again with kids, you can tell them and tell them and tell them until you're blue in the face. But sometimes they need to experience it, and you've just got to go, do you know what? Carry on. And then when they experience it, let's say, you can say, okay, what did you learn? Are you going to do that again? No. I'll give you a quick example. I had a business many years ago. It was a gym and fitness business, and we became very successful very quickly. And then the business went bankrupt. I personally went bankrupt for £2.7 million. Lost the houses, cars, the lifestyle, everything. I was living back on my mum and dad's couch. This was in the 90s. My dad invested in that business in the early days. And my dad turned around and said to me, and I remember the day going to his office and having to tell him the news that the business had gone bankrupt. And I went in to see him, and I sat down, he was behind his desk, and I told him, and you know what, I was expecting to say, what the hell? He didn't. Do you know what my dad said to me? He said, what did you learn? And I spent the next hour going through things, and he was giving me advice, and I was saying things. And I was getting a little bit emotional about it and talking about it. And right at the end of it, my dad just said to me, he said, "Well, Derek," and he stood up and he shook my hand and he says, "I think that's the most expensive lesson you're ever going to learn in your life." And that's what he said. So we need to learn lessons from failure. And here's another one. Don't worry about what other people say and think. Do you know there was a study done in America? And the study went, I can't remember this, the study was something like 3,000 students was given a couple of different puzzles. One of them was doable, one of them wasn't doable. I don't know what it was, I can't remember what it was. And when they looked at all of this, they had X amount of weeks or a couple of months to do these particular puzzles. I don't know whether they were mathematical or they were physical or what. When they looked at all the data, 70% plus gave up before they knew whether it was possible or not possible to do that puzzle. 70% gave up, 70%. And when asked, why did you give up? Do you know what the most common answer was? I was worried what so-and-so would say. I trained all my life as an athlete to be the best that I could be. There were times I'd have good seasons, good races, bad seasons, bad races. I'd pick up injuries. I'd get over those injuries. I can continue competing. Do you know what? We changed things. We changed the way we changed. We changed my diet. We changed the way that I ran a 400. Do you think I gave the monkeys what anybody else thought? Hell no. It's about what I was doing and if it was the right thing for me. And one of the things about trying something and it not working, you can cross it off the list and say, well, we know that doesn't work. You've taken it out of the equation. But one thing, don't be afraid of what other people say. If you think you can achieve, you can build this business, you can do whatever it is you want to do, that's all you need. Have it in your heart. If it's in your heart, don't worry about what anybody else says. Because when you drive past in your Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls Royce, whatever you got, and it's raining, you can wind your window and say, I ain't giving you a lift. Wind it back up and keep on going. Don't worry what they're saying. Do you know what? Sorry, I am going to tell a few stories here. I'm going to tell another story about my dad. My dad came over to this country when he was 15 years of age. And he came over from Trinidad, picked up from Southampton docks, and he already had family that were based in London, and they came and picked him up. Gets in this rusty old minivan, and there's about 5 or 6 of them. And they're driving back somewhere between Southampton and London. And they pull up at traffic lights. Steamed up windows. It's not like air-conditioned vehicles we've got now. It's all steamed up windows. And my dad wiped the window. And they've pulled up at a traffic lights. It's a dual carriageway traffic lights. Next to this car, this van they were in, my dad looks out, sees this car, goes, oh my goodness, what's that? Look at this, look at this. And this 15-year-old kid starts making a fuss about this car. The driver looks over and says, what are you talking about? What? Looks at it, it's a Rolls Royce. My dad said, look at that. He's never seen one in his life. 15-year-old kid from Trinidad, born in Port of Spain, never seen one. He goes, oh my God, that's a brilliant car. I'm going to get me one of them. And the driver said, child boy, just settle yourself. Maybe when you get older and you get yourself a job, maybe you can just buy yourself a little run around and be thankful for that. That was the start of a dream for my old man. He became obsessed with Bentleys and Rolls Royces. When I came on the scene and I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I can remember going to the motor show in Birmingham and my dad queuing for hours to go on the Bentley stand. Because they wouldn't let you on, you had to go over the little ribbon, remember, you know, the little rope, and they'd only let so many people on. I was 7, 8 years old. All I wanted to do was run on every stand, put my handprints and my nose all over all the cars, and collect all the stickers and rubbish and leaflets that you would get at these things and take them home for my mum to throw away 48 hours later. And my dad's queuing up on his thing. Love these cars. He became obsessed. Fast forward to the year 2000, I'm living in Birmingham. My dad rings my doorbell. Dad, what are you doing up here? Didn't you I was up here? I had a couple of meetings. Just wanted to see it, so I thought I'd come up and see you. Come in. You got time? Yeah, we'll go and get some food. He went, no. Come outside. Well, no, come in. Went, no, come outside. I've got something to show you. Walked outside. Brand new Bentley Mulsanne, parked up. Royal blue with this sand leather that my dad wanted. His number plate, as I said, my business is now called OCR Motivational. His number plate, OCR1. And I looked at the one on the front one, I went, wow. And I saw OCR1 on the white plate at the front. And then I looked again, and underneath where it says OCR1, it said ambition achieved. And I walked around the back, and I looked at the yellow plate, and it had OCR 1, and I looked under that, and it said, through hard work and dedication. And that was my dad. He did not give up on that dream, on that aim, and he didn't care. The bloke laughed at him. I don't know whether the bloke was still alive, but I wish he was, because if I was my dad, I would have driven straight round to his yard. Yes, man, look, check out my whip. So don't worry about what other people say. Develop that mindset of an Olympian. Now, a couple of things that I quickly want to talk about. One of the things that I always talk about to people is take failure like a pro. Okay, take failure like a pro. 3 words up here, 3 letters up there, P, R, and O. So the P stands for how you perceive that thing that has gone wrong. How you perceive it. You try something, what's your perception of that? That's the first thing that you've got to do. And as it says up there, no one sets out to fail. We don't go out saying, right, I'm getting up and I'm hoping this goes wrong today. Nobody sets out to fail. But do you know what? It happens. So you've got to get that right perception. Then we move to the R, your response. How are you going to respond to this? Oh, that's it, I'm giving up. Chucking all your toys out of the pram. I'm blaming you lot. I'm blaming you. It's nothing to do with me. I'm blaming myself. How are you going to respond to that situation? Make sure you respond in the right way. And finally, the O, what opportunities come from what you've just done? Take failure like a pro. As it says on there, what have you learned? What are the benefits to come from this? And how are you going to use that information to make whatever you do better again? So remember that. Feel free to take photographs, write it down. Take failure like a pro. It's the one thing that we can do. Okay, that's the preaching bit over. I want to tell you a quick story now. I don't know how much time I've got left, but am I all right for time? 5? Oh my goodness, I'm taking 10, sorry. So, very quickly, Barcelona happens. It's the worst day of my life. I want to quickly tell you what happened to me after Barcelona. After Barcelona, I fly back to this country. 48 hours later, had to have my hamstring operated on. I have keyhole surgery. They operate on my hamstring. I take some time out, get back into training slowly. 2 weeks back into training, my hamstring pop went again. Back into hospital for operation number 2. Went through the whole process. Get back into training, pop, the hamstring goes again. Back into hospital for operation number 3. Basically, this happened 7 times in an 18-month process. After the 7th operation, the surgeon who had performed all 7 operations told me, you're never going to compete for your country again. Your hamstring's done. Go get a regular job and live a regular life. I didn't like that, and that put me on a new task. I was going to prove him wrong. Didn't know how, didn't know when. 3 years later, speeding up, I find myself playing professional basketball, and I get 1 international for England. At that international, obviously there's photographers taking pictures. I had pictures sent to me, and I sent the surgeon a photograph of me playing basketball for England. And I signed it, and I put on it to Dr. Cobb. Thank you for your confidence, signed Derek Redmon, international athlete and international basketball player. Kiss, kiss. If LOL was a thing back then, it would have been on there. I remember telling my dad I did this, and I said I was expecting a letter or some kind of reaction from the surgeon. I got no reaction. My dad said, Derek, forget it. You've defied the medical world. They said it couldn't be done. You did it. Draw a line underneath it because you're over it, aren't you? I said, no, I'm not. He said, well, there's nothing you can do. I said, yes, there is. And I explained at that time only a handful of people, including me, had competed for their country in 2 different sports. No one had done it in 3. I want to be the first. My dad thought I was crazy, as did the world. I quit basketball halfway through my first professional season, got into rugby. Played local league rugby for 1.5 years, then got picked up to play professionally, then got into playing 7s. Ended up playing rugby 7s in the Far East for a year or so, came back, tried out for England, didn't quite make it, but hey, it wasn't for the want of trying. Got out of that, got out of being a professional sportsman. I've now got a young family. I'm trying to get through this in 10 minutes. I've now got a young family, and I wanted to be around when my kids were growing up. So I quit being a professional sport because I spent too much time away. Plus, I was getting a bit older, and I had some business opportunities come my way, one being the gym and fitness equipment business. So I get into that, and I'm working out and training, but I'm bored just training because I had no end goal. And I said to my wife, I said to Maria, I'm just bored training. She says, look, Derek, you've had a great career in sport. In fact, you've had 3. This is the point in your life now where you can actually enjoy yourself and do those hobbies that you want to do. So she said, one of the things I wanted to do was learn to ride a motorcycle. So I did, learn to ride a motorcycle. 3 years later, I started racing motorcycles. 2 years after that, I became national endurance champion. Continued racing for a few more years later, got out of racing motorbikes. I'm back into gym, work's going well. Guess what? I'm training, I'm bored. I said to Maria, I'm bored. She goes, I don't want to hear it. She said, the last time I told you to try a hobby, you turned it into a sport. So let's cut out the middleman. What sport are you doing next? And she used to be a kickboxer. So she said, kickboxing, why don't you give it a try? So I did. 2 years later, won a national title of kickboxing. Got out of kickboxing, got into white-collar boxing. Had 3 white-collar fights, won all 3 of them in the first round. Spoke to my trainer and said, I want a bit more competition. He said, you're going to have to turn semi-pro. So when I was 53, I turned semi-pro as a boxer. I'm now 59 nearly, 59 in a couple of months' time, still fighting. 7 fights, 7 wins. The only reason I'm not fighting this year is I've got a mouthful of braces. And I'm on a very big dental journey. It's got another 6-8 months to go, which makes my wife laugh because she says, I can't believe you're spending all this money on your teeth for someone to knock them out. My response is, thanks for the confidence, my darling. Now you know why I jump out of bed first thing in the morning. No, I don't know. Now, there's a reason for me telling you all that. And that is not to stand up here and boast about how good I am at sport. But it's to kind of illustrate a process that I was going through. I didn't know it at the time. 2020 comes along. I have a bad illness, nothing to do with COVID. At one point, I was given 5 hours to live. I'm not going to explain that to you now, but I was given 5 hours to live, and there was only one surgeon who decided not to give up on me, and thankfully he did, else I wouldn't be here now. Got through all that, and I can't do what I normally do. I can't do this. I can't come to events and stand on stage and present or deliver workshops. I'm like all of us. I am locked up for a crime I didn't commit. That's what I called lockdown. I was locked up for a crime that I didn't commit. And I'm in my house. And I've got to now change the way that I work because I've got to do everything virtually. So I decided to look at some new ways of presenting and put some new products together. And during that process, I stumbled across this quote. And you'll notice one word is highlighted, and the word adapt. And I thought, that's brilliant. I want to do something around the word adapt. Because that's the one thing that we have to do pretty much on a daily basis, is adapt to the situations we found ourselves in, regardless of how we started out on that day and what our aim is for the end of that day. So I decided to do something on the word adapt. And before I could actually do anything on that, I needed to understand, how have I adapted to situations? So I called loads of people, family, friends, coaches, physios, doctors, mechanics, training partners, competitors, and I asked them basically one question: can you think of a time that I had adapted to a situation? And then people gave me a load of examples. I spoke to my athletics coach. His name's Tony Hadley. Not that one, but his name's Tony Hadley. They did have gold in common. Oh, sorry, that's a bad joke. And I spoke to him and I asked him the same question. He burst out laughing. I said, why so funny? He said, Derek, we spent your whole damn athletics career adapting with all the injury problems that you had. And I went, oh yeah. I said, can you give me an example? He gave me loads of examples. And at the end of it, and he said, Derek, you've been doing it with all these sports you've been getting involved in. And he went on and on and on about, and I went, oh my God, I've been doing this all my life. And I came up with what I call my adapt theory. This is going to make you instantly resilient. So we take the word adapt and we're going to use it as an acronym. Now, each of these words stands for a letter. Sorry, each of these letters, get this right, stands for a word. And each of those words are an action that you need to take when you find yourself challenged when embarking on your goal, your dream, your aim, whatever it be. So Olympics starting in about 10 days' time. I'm going to use them as my example. Let's imagine for this example that the Olympics are 6 months away. And I'm a young athlete preparing for those Olympic Games. Basically, there are 3 things that could happen to me as a young athlete that's either going to stop me competing at all or stop me competing well at those Olympic Games. First thing is injury. Second thing is a loss of form. And the third thing is actually coming into form too soon, peaking before the Olympics, and getting slower and slower by the time the Games come around. Any of those things show any signs, I need to change the way that I'm operating. So, young athlete, things are going well, 6 months to go, everything's looking good, then bang, I get injured. First letter is an A, and the A stands for acceptance. The first thing that I have to do is accept I am injured. Don't try and hide it. Don't try and ignore it and train through it. Keep it a secret from all your coaches and advisors. Own it. You are injured. Guess what? It has happened. The minute you accept that, you can move on to the next letter. The next letter is a D, and the D stands for direction and actually destination. So, I'm injured. I've now got this injury. Is my direction still heading towards Paris, destination, the Olympic Games? Well, if it's a minor injury, and it's going to put me out for maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 days, 15 days, actually, yeah, my direction and destination is still Paris and those Olympic Games. What if it's a bit more serious? A medium injury. I'm out maybe for 6 weeks, 2 months. Well, okay, it's not ideal, But in a 6 months process, rather than being out for a month, I'm now out for 6 weeks. Okay, my destination and direction is still Paris and those Olympic Games. But what if it's a serious injury? A season-ending injury? All of a sudden, 2024 is done. I'm not going to be recovered in enough time to do anything in 2024. Well, my direction has now changed from 2024 to 2025. And my destination is whatever championships has happened in 2025. In this case, it's the World Championships out in Tokyo. So my direction and destination has changed. Once we figure that out, we can move on. The next letter is another A, and the next A stands for alternatives. So now we've accepted I'm injured, we've understood my direction and destination, what alternatives are out there to help me get to said destination? In the case of me as a young athlete, I've got to change the way that I train. So am I going from weight-bearing training to non-weight-bearing? Am I going from the track to grass, from spikes to trainers? Have I got to rest? Have I got to have physio treatment? Do I need to have surgery? Have I got to bring a specialist in? Have I got to sort out some kind of rehab program to get myself back into athlete? What are all the alternatives? Once we've worked them out, we can move to the next letter. And the next letter is a P. And that stands for the new plan, the new process, the new procedure, the new program. I don't care what P you use. Just use one, else the adapt theory won't work. So we put a new plan together. We work out what we're going to be doing. Work out what this new plan is to get me from here to wherever my destination is. And then once we've done that, we can move to the final letter. The final letter is a T, and that stands for transition. We can now transition that plan from paper into action. I've worked with so many organizations that spend time, effort, and money on putting some great plans together and never put them into action. What's your first step? What's your second step? What's your third step? Are we on the right time? Do we need to relook at this and maybe make some changes? If we do, we jig the plan around a little bit. What's the fourth step, fifth step? Put that plan into action and you're back on your road again. But here's the secret. Change is a cycle. So you could go through that process and pick up another injury, lose my form, start to get quicker and quicker way too soon. Then guess what? You go through this whole process again. You accept the situation and you look at the direction, you look at the alternatives, you put a new plan together, you transition that plan into action. And you do that as many times as it takes to get you from where you are to where you want to be. I actually call this unleashing your inner sat-nav. This will be the last thing I say. You'll be pleased because I can see his eyes burning at me here. Now, the funny thing about this, I call it unleashing your inner sat-nav. And the reason I call it that, I did a workshop once on resilience, and somebody asked me a question, and they said, what's the most resilient thing you can think of? And I said, a satellite navigation. He said, huh? Why? And I said, well, just think about it. You put a destination in, and come hell or high water, your sat-nav will get you from where you are to where you want to be. Just imagine if we all had an inner sat-nav in us. And he went, oh yeah, thanks for that. And I don't think he was impressed. And then I said to him, but think about it. This is what your sat-nav does. So you get in your car, you put a destination in, a map comes up and a blue line, and you start following that line, don't you? And it's telling you to turn left, turn right, third exit of the roundabout, whatever. Now, the technology in the sat-nav is such that it can detect and be told what's happening 5, 6, 10 miles ahead. There's a problem 8, 9 miles ahead. First thing your satellite navigation does is accept that in 8 miles' time, there is an issue. Your sat-nav doesn't go, sure, I'm going to carry on. It accepts that there is a problem. Then it moves on to the next letter, which is the D, direction and destination, where the destination doesn't change because your sat-nav only knows the destination you put in when you're sat outside your house. But it recognizes the direction might have to change. So it moves next to the A, and the A is for alternatives. So your satellite navigation system says, do I navigate this car around the left of the problem? Do I navigate it around the right of the problem? Or have we got no problem and got no choice and got to drive straight through the middle of this problem and just sit it out? It then comes up with a new plan. Now, you as the driver, this is the first time you are alerted there is an issue because your sat-nav might beep, the ETA will go up, the mileage will go up. Or if you've got a fancy car and a fancy sat-nav, it might turn around and say, rerouting, saving you 24 minutes in traffic. But whatever it does is come up with a new plan. And then it transitions that plan into action. How? By telling you what to do. Take the next left, next right, fourth of the roundabout, fifth left, fifth right, whatever the case may be. And it gets you around that problem. And you continue your merry way on that journey. And if there is another issue, guess what? Your sat-nav will do that again. And it will get you from where you are to where you want to be. It might take you a little bit longer. There might be a few more miles on that car, but it will get you there. Everybody, unleash your inner sat-nav. And the final slide really is just to say thank you. Oh, it didn't work. It's just to say thank you for listening to me, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thanks very much.